Many of us, I'm sure, are familiar with the development of political action committees in the US and what ended up becoming the super PACs, and what happened in the aftermath of the ruling on the Citizens United case in the Supreme Court of the USA in 2010. This phenomenon of third-party groups being involved in raising funds for political parties is not unique to the US, though. I can remember how registered agents for political parties came to prominence in Canada. I haven't been able to trace the origin of this in Canadian law. Maybe this was always possible. But I first noticed it in 2004 and 5 when there was a minority government in Canada and the Conservative Party of Canada started running advertisements when election campaigns were not running. And all of these ads ended with the tagline, "Funded by a registered agent for the Conservative Party of Canada." That was something I had never seen before. Political parties advertising in non-election campaign time. When the Conservative Party gained the reins of government in 2006, they then started working on eliminating a per-vote subsidy, which had been voted in 2 years before in 2004. And they were eventually able to phase it out when they gained majority governance in 2011 to 15. This is going to take a little bit of explanation, so please bear with me. In 2004, there were 3 ways for a political party to be funded through federal funding regulations. First, your party could receive contributions from individuals, which would be subsidized by tax credits. This is important because the laws were changed in 2004 so that only individuals could make contributions, not corporations or trades unions any longer. An individual could contribute up to $1,500 a year through 4 possible avenues. Up to $1,500 a year for each of a political party and/or a political riding or district association and/or leadership candidates in a specific contest, like an election for a new leader for a party, and/or to a specific candidate in an election. I think you can see how this all adds up. If you were supporting one specific party in one part of the country, you could contribute up to $6,000 per year. Second, your party received an annual per-vote subsidy, indexed to inflation, and based on the number of votes your party received in the popular vote in the previous federal election. This went from $1.50 to just over $2 a vote, and you received 25% of your annual subsidy every quarter. Every party, even the smaller and more marginal ones, received this. The third way was by being reimbursed by the federal government for your election expenses in your riding. However, you had to receive at least 10% of the popular vote in a riding to receive it. Let's see how this worked in a specific election in 2008. Now, you'll see that the Conservative Party received the largest shares of funding in per-vote subsidies and contributions for a larger share of federal funding overall. But take note of the shares in those first 2 pie charts, especially the middle one. It's worth noting when we look at what happened next. After the 2008 elections, the Conservative government announced plans to get rid of the per-vote subsidy, just leaving the contribution tax credit funding, which they happened to benefit from more. This was even though they had made no policy announcement on this during the election campaign.
This was one of the issues which led to the possibility of a minority coalition government unseating the Conservatives and to Prime Minister Stephen Harper's prorogation, or cancelling, of Parliament until early 2009. In the 2011 election, one of the policy platforms of the Conservative Party was to phase out the per-voter subsidy, which they did over their 4-year mandate. They also voted in a $25 per year rise in the contribution an individual could make to a political party and or its constituent parts. As of 2020, that's $1,625 per individual contributor. And then there are the registered agents.
Some analysis since then has expressed concern about political parties going back to big money, and some politicians even called it a move of personal vindictiveness on the part of Stephen Harper, the then Prime Minister, against his political opposition. Well, we saw the evidence of what happened after that. The Conservatives got a majority in 2011, and in 2015 they were voted out. It seemed as though Canadians didn't like the look of what Conservative majority government under Stephen Harper looked like. Yet, this phenomenon of trying to dilute the power of one person, one vote is not unique to the US or Canada either. Take a look at the National Assembly elections which happened here in South Korea a couple of weeks ago.
Again, more explanation needed. The National Assembly in Korea is made up of 300 members in what's called a mixed member proportional representation, or MMRP system. 253 are elected from constituencies or districts, and the person who gets the most votes is elected. The other 47 are elected from lists of candidates from each party. Each Korean voter has in effect 2 votes, one for the constituency and one for the proportional lists. Now, in the year before the election, the system was amended. There were now 2 lists of candidates for each party, one being the traditional MMRP and the other called a mixed member majoritarian system. Now, I'm having as much trouble understanding this mixed system as you probably are now. But the intention was to increase representation for smaller political parties. However, something interesting happened on the way to the election. The main conservative opposition party, best known as the United Future Party, were allowed to set up a satellite party, best known as the Future Korea Party. And this was set up for the express purpose of establishing the lists of proportional candidates. Now, the main center-left party, officially known as the Democratic Party, although I'd probably translate their name as Democracy Together or Democrats Together. I'm not in control of these translation things, but I digress. Now, the DP said, we can't have this. And they set up their own satellite party, what they called the Platform Party. How's that for a catchy name? A more accurate translation would be Citizens Together, but again, I'm not in charge of this, but I keep digressing, so that they could challenge the moves by the United Future Party in setting up their satellite party. Now, what happened in the election? In constituencies, there was a very clear victory for the DP over the UFP. And you can see 163 to 84. Now, in both proportional lists, the FKP got a slight edge over the PP, which meant that in each list they got an extra member, so that came to 19 to 17. Now, in the proportional vote, the difference between the two parties, the two satellite parties, was 0.5%. Did this merit 2 extra proportional seats? Yeah, I'm not convinced. Did it result in smaller parties being shut out? Well, I can't say for sure, but it's pretty clear to me, at least, that both of the large parties were trying to outmaneuver each other and may have disenfranchised smaller parties in the process. Now, is it just me, or do conservative political movements appear to start all this apparent stirring of the political pot? And why?
I think the lesson is clear. Wherever you've got a system of representative democracy, whether it's one person, one vote, or one person, two votes, big money speaks only for those people who have got it. And any political party will take whatever steps it can within the letter of the law, bending it as far as it can, if not indeed breaking it, in order to further its ideology. And a political party's ideology is not always the same as the public interest. So be warned, beware of who you vote for. They're interested in implementing their agenda first, last, and always, and it may not always benefit you. But then I keep being told that I don't know the Korean mind or Korean feelings or the way Korean society works, and I have lived in Canada for a long time, so I guess I'll just have to continue being Craig Bartlett on the outside, looking in.